In Chicago, a catastrophe known as the event strikes when a massive particle collider at Ashburn Laboratories detonates, wiping out the entire city. Chicago is sealed off as a forbidden zone, and the blast reshapes life worldwide. Every home now comes equipped with a panic room, and, more disturbingly, the spirits of those killed in the event start manifesting everywhere. These apparitions are dubbed remnants, or REMs, and the world quickly assigns them rules. They aren't conscious beings, just echoes of the past locked in tiny repeating routines that replay for a couple of minutes each day before fading. They can't change what they do, and they supposedly can't touch or influence anything in the real world. A decade passes. Rumors spread that brand new REMs are appearing, and the authorities flatly deny it. In Jewel City, 50 miles away, teenager Veronica Calder has lived through the event but lost her father, Robert. His REM still appears at their breakfast table every morning, going through the same motions, while her mother, Anna, stubbornly pretends he isn't there. At school, Veronica attends a lesson on REMs taught by August Bittner. She challenges him, asking why people insist REMs only come from event victims when fresh ones keep surfacing, like the spectral girl right there in their classroom. Bittner has no explanation. During lunch, Veronica keeps glancing at Kirk, a withdrawn boy obsessed with REMs. He spends his time hunched over a notebook, scribbling constantly, and everyone knows he was kicked out of his previous school, though the reason is a mystery. That evening, as the sun goes down, Veronica heads to the lake to ice skate and relive happier memories with her dad. The next morning, after her shower, Veronica walks into the bathroom and spots a new REM. Shock knocks her off her feet. A young man stands at the mirror, staring at his reflection. Just before he vanishes, he lifts his hand like he's trying to write. To her horror, he succeeds. The word run briefly appears on the mirror before disappearing. Back in class, Veronica can't focus, and her classmates call her out when they notice something alarming. Her ear is bleeding. The school nurse finds no physical issue, so Veronica decides to bring the bathroom REM incident to Bittner. He invites her to his house after school, where she meets his daughter, Eva, who coldly ignores them. Veronica describes what she witnessed in the mirror, but Bittner dismisses it. REMs, he insists, can't interact with the real world, and since Veronica fell, he assumes she's concussed and hallucinating. That night, Veronica camps out in the bathroom, waiting to see if the REM returns, but nothing shows. The next day, she starts tailing Kirk, convinced his obsession might lead to answers. She tracks him into a tunnel where a stream of fish REMs emerges. Kirk counts them, noting their numbers increase each month. Veronica calls him a truther and asks for help with the bathroom REM, offering to write his paper in exchange. He agrees only if she explains why it matters so much to her, and she admits she's afraid the REM intends to hurt her. Later at school, they start plotting a strategy. In the middle of the conversation, Veronica casually refers to the REM as Brian. Kirk immediately notices she never actually learned his name, and Veronica realizes she has no idea how it popped into her mind. To uncover who Brian was, they decide they need a photograph of him. Regular cameras can't capture REMs, so they recruit a science club kid who knows how to mimic spectrographic lenses using simple household gear. Veronica and Kirk set up the contraption in the bathroom and wait for Brian's loop. When a strange noise echoes from downstairs, Veronica goes to investigate and spots a man's reflection in a mirror. Something shifts in the corner of her vision, and she bolts back upstairs to grab Kirk. They hurry down again but find only Anna. Veronica scrambles for an excuse, but Kirk suddenly notices the time and races back to the bathroom, with Veronica right behind him. Brian finally appears and Kirk snaps a photo. Instantly, things escalate. Brian's face starts to decay. He whirls around and lunges at them, and the light bulb explodes as he vanishes. The next day, Kirk uses the photograph to track Brian's identity. They discover that 4 years earlier, Brian kidnapped and murdered Mary, the pastor's daughter. Veronica and Kirk visit the pastor to ask questions, but she only knows the broad strokes. Brian stalked Mary around campus, approached her one day, and after an argument, persuaded her to leave with him. That was the last time anyone saw Mary alive. Police found Brian in a motel the day after recovering Mary's body, but he had already taken his own life. Veronica and Kirk dig deeper into Brian's background. They conclude he wasn't local, Jewel City is small, and no one recognized him, which likely means Mary didn't know who he really was either. They also note that Mary vanished the day before her birthday, February 29th. Leap Day, the same date as Veronica's birthday. While they research in the library, a dark shadow silently watches them. When it disappears, the lights flicker. Veronica drops her notebook, and when she picks it up, she finds the word run scribbled over every page, countless times, in writing she never put there. Later, Kirk gets summoned to the principal's office and scolded for bothering the pastor. He insists it's for a school project, but the principal doesn't buy it. Meanwhile, Veronica sits at the school basketball game, uneasy because Kirk isn't showing up or replying to her messages. The principal is present but slips out through the stairs after receiving a text. During the match, Veronica begins spotting Brian in the crowd, then in a room across the court. She tries to get to him in the stands and fails, then strides straight across the court. So fixated she doesn't realize she's disrupting the game. When she finally snaps back to reality, something horrific happens. The principal's body crashes down from the ceiling. That evening, Kirk goes to see Veronica, worried. He explains he told the principal the truth about why they approached the pastor, and the principal had promised to help. Now he's dead. Kirk is convinced the two events are connected, but Veronica thinks he's reaching. When Kirk finds her ice skates, Veronica reveals they belong to her father and shares her final memory of him. On the day of the event, she screamed at Robert and told him she didn't love him. Normally he took the train, but when he was late, he drove. That morning, because of their fight, he left by car and was on the freeway when the event struck. If he had boarded the train, the blast wouldn't have reached him. Veronica blames herself for his death and has never visited his grave. Kirk's family life is messy too. He never cried over his father, and the reason he tracks Rems is that he keeps hoping his dad's ghost will appear, but it never does. During their conversation, Veronica and Kirk lean in for a kiss, only to be interrupted by Anna, who offers Kirk the sofa bed since it's late and the roads are icing over. That night, Veronica sees Brian at her window, reaching toward her. She stumbles back, hits a thin layer of ice, and crashes through into the lake. Underwater, she sees two female ghosts, and a barrage of bizarre visions floods her mind before she jolts awake in her bed, realizing it was all a nightmare. In the morning, Anna tells Veronica she's leaving for a job interview in Overton on the 28th, which upsets Veronica because it means her mother will miss her birthday. When Robert's Rem appears as usual, Kirk notices something off. The newspaper in his hands carries a date after Robert died. The front page reports the disappearances and deaths of two girls, Emma and Claire. Kirk jots down the details and concludes Robert is trying to warn Veronica. They search online and learn that Emma and Claire went missing on Leap Day, 1 year apart. Claire's sister is still around, so Veronica and Kirk visit her. She reveals Brian was Claire's boyfriend and that Claire was obsessed with him. So obsessed that she moved to Chicago soon after meeting him. When Claire's sister mentions that Claire's Rem shows the moment of her death, Veronica and Kirk immediately decide to go see it, even though it means entering Chicago's restricted zone. When they reach the ruined city, they find the same lake from Veronica's dream. Even more shocking, they see countless Rems lingering around Chicago, their loops stretching far beyond a few seconds. Kirk suggests that the energy-sustaining Rems is stronger here at Ground Zero, allowing their routines to play out much longer. A pack of thugs shows up, drinking and causing trouble. To throw them off, Kirk shoves Veronica against a wall and kisses her, pretending they're Rems. The ploy works, the thugs back off, even the one who almost tests them with a knife. Afterward, Veronica and Kirk head to the address Claire's sister gave them and discover it's the lab where the event occurred. A man at the entrance charges admission to view the infamous Rem of the dying girl. As they descend, Veronica and Kirk pass all kinds of ghosts from times before the building became a lab, including the girls from Veronica's dream. They finally reach a packed room where people have gathered to watch the Rem. Claire's ghost appears, chatting happily with someone invisible, which makes it clear she knew her killer. Suddenly, she's hurled around the room and bolts for a staircase. She climbs to the top, but the attacker strangles her and the loop ends. Scanning the crowd, Kirk spots Dr. Martin Steiner, the scientist who led the experiment that triggered the event, and calls his name. Steiner bolts, forcing Kirk and Veronica to chase him until they corner him in an alley. He pulls a gun on them, but Veronica refuses to be intimidated and tells him to shoot, since living without answers is no different from being dead. That pushes Steiner to give in and tell his story as he leads them back inside. He explains that when the bombs fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the shadows of dying people were burned into walls, frozen in place. Those traces we leave behind at death, he says, can become something more, potential doorways allowing the dead to reach the living. His research focused on creating such a doorway, bringing patients to the edge of death and back. The closer they got, the riskier it became, and on the day of the event, instead of opening a controlled door, they ripped open an enormous hole. Brian, he reveals, was his brilliant assistant, but after the event, Brian changed. When Claire died, Steiner was convinced Brian was responsible. The later murdered girls, he explains, were part of Brian's attempt at spectral transference, an effort to bring Claire back by using other girls' bodies. Steiner also admits that the REM rules taught in schools are fabricated, and that all of Brian's victims share one link. They were born on Claire's birthday, Leap Day, just like Veronica. Kirk quietly steals an old photograph of the lab while Veronica promises Steiner they won't expose him. But he can't live with the truth anymore and uses his gun to end his own life. The next day, Veronica and Kirk return to school, debating how to keep her alive until her birthday passes. Administrators are waiting. They force Kirk to open his locker and uncover a gun. He insists it isn't his, but they drag him away anyway. Panicked, Veronica runs to Bittner for help. This time he believes her. He's spoken to the pastor and now knows enough to be afraid. He also reveals the reason for Kirk's earlier expulsion. A gun was found on him at his old school. After hearing the full Steiner story, Bittner says running won't work and suggests a new plan. Line the panic room in Veronica's house with lead, which supposedly blocks Rems from entering. The next day, Kirk approaches Veronica, trying to talk, but she has been dodging his calls and doesn't know if she can trust him. He confesses that he did have a gun at his former school, but it was meant for himself, not for anyone else. She still tells him to leave before she and Bittner finish sealing the room where she will hide. Meanwhile, Anna arrives at the company for her interview and is stunned when they tell her nobody ever contacted her. Kirk studies the photo he swiped from Steiner and discovers Bittner also worked at the lab. He tries to call Veronica, but her phone gets no signal inside the lead-lined panic room. He drives straight to Bittner's house to confirm his fears and finds that Eva is actually a Rem who died at Ground Zero, which explains her extended loop. Bittner, it seems, plans to resurrect her using Veronica's body. Outside, Bittner catches Kirk, knocks him out, and drives off to bury him alive. Then he heads back to Veronica's house, pretending to act as her protector. Inside, Veronica suddenly remembers the gear they used to photograph Brian and realizes the setup around her doesn't make sense. This is a trap. She shoves Bittner and bolts from the room, but he quickly grabs her by the hair and starts confessing everything he's done for his daughter. He admits he murdered all the girls, faked Anna's interview, planted the gun in Kirk's locker, and killed both Brian and the principal. Brian, he reveals, had actually taken the girls to shield them, but Bittner hunted them down anyway. He clamps his hands around Veronica's throat, but gets distracted when Robert's Rem appears nearby. Veronica uses that moment to snatch one of her skates from under the couch, slash Bittner, and break free before sprinting away. She eventually reaches the frozen lake. Bittner grabs her from behind, but she starts kicking at the ice until it cracks and both of them plunge into the water. He keeps trying to drown her, but two Rems appear. Brian helps push Veronica up toward the surface, while Mary drags Bittner down until he drowns. Brian fades away after Veronica thanks him. The ice is too slick for Veronica to pull herself fully out, and she starts thinking about her father as the cold overtakes her. At that moment, Kirk arrives, hauls her from the water, and promises more help is on the way. He explains how he escaped. His father's Rem finally appeared and clawed the dirt away from his grave. Veronica settles back into everyday life, this time without her dad's Rem appearing, which gives her the strength to at last visit Robert's grave. Afterward, she and Kirk agree they need to expose the truth to the world, while Bittner's Rem stands at a distance, silently watching them.